Honestly, this classic cartoon duo needs no introduction. A pesky little mouse and a gray cat's relentless attempt at capturing him have redefined childhood over generations. Hanna and Barbera shot into fame riding on the never-ending chaos between these two, and soon, Tom and Jerry became our all-time favorite cat and mouse chase show. However, behind Jerry's clever tactics and Tom's endless bad luck, there are some insane facts that you probably never saw coming. We know what you're thinking, and trust us, we're in the same boat. None of us expected there to be such mind-blowing secrets hidden beneath all that crazy slapstick action. But as it turns out, the legendary Saturday morning cartoon has much more to offer than what meets the eye. So get ready and put on your diggin' boots. We promise this ride will make you love this troublesome duo even more. Oh, and be sure to grab some snacks just in case you have a munchies craving like Tiny Tuffy. How did Tom and Jerry begin? Okay, let's start from the very origin of this evergreen show. Back in 1937, the father of Tom and Jerry, Joseph Barbera, began working at MGM Studios and learned that the studio was trying to boost its animation department by introducing new cartoon characters. He then teamed up with William Hanna, and after racking their brains over creating something involving a fox or a dog, they finally settled on a cat and a mouse. The head of the animation department at MGM, Fred Quimby, reluctantly allowed them to create one theatrical short, but he didn't show much interest in it and asked them to focus on other projects. Now, when the MGM cartoon studio was struggling to beat Walt Disney, this duo appeared as their guardian angels. Hanna and Barbera's first short, Puss Gets the Boot, released in 1940 and bagged an Academy Award nomination, but MGM still wasn't convinced. Luckily, a businesswoman from Texas, Bessa Short, wrote to the studio asking whether any more shorts about the cat and mouse would be made. This correspondence did the trick, and MGM finally greenlit the continuation of Tom and Jerry's animated shorts. Between 1940 and 1958, Hanna and Barbera kept on delivering about 114 meticulously hand-drawn mini-films. It would take them at least 6 weeks to make one cartoon, and the estimated budget for each would be about $50,000. Soon after, Tom and Jerry were televised, and they've been ingrained in our brains ever since. The original names of Tom and Jerry. In the beginning, Tom was known as Jasper and had a more rugged street cat-like appearance with bushier fur and a rounder face. However, Jerry was just an unnamed mouse who was referred to as Jinx in pre-production. MGM's short story magazine article in 1940 stated that the name of the mouse was Pee-wee. However, Hanna and Barbera wanted a catchier name. The creators then held a contest and offered a $50 prize to studio workers to come up with the best name for the pair. It was won by animator John Carr, who coined the names Tom and Jerry. Many people believe that the names have their roots in an eggnog-style Christmas cocktail by the same name, whose origin is often attributed to the British writer Pierce Egan's novel Life in London, first published in 1820. Hanna and Barbera did not have a script in the beginning. The regular practice for animation production in America at that time was to begin with a script and not just an abstract idea. However, Hanna and Barbera had an extraordinary brain, and once the thought was sown, they didn't care much about the written text. Barbera would rely on storyboarding and draw the animation designs to flesh out the tale. William Hanna, on the other hand, tasked himself with the animation timing, starting from curating the music to the beats at which the animation would happen, and even the occasional voices like Tom's screams. They then supervised an animator to work out the scenes, and the rest is history. The rise of television was actually a problem for Tom and Jerry. Once technology was on a roll and TV sets became popular in the 1950s, MGM realized that theatrical screenings weren't pouring in as much revenue as they used to. Hence, they decided to cut down Tom and Jerry's budget and ordered all the following shorts to be produced in the widescreen technique of CinemaScope. In November 1954, Hanna and Barbera first released Pet Peeve under this new format, but soon the studio pulled a nasty move. They realized that reruns of old cartoons were profiting as much as new ones in this television era, and believe it or not, they decided to stop production of Tom and Jerry and consequently disbanded its animation wing on May 15, 1957. The last skit that Hanna and Barbera created was The Tot Watchers, which aired on August 1, 1958. After the two bid goodbye to MGM, they created their very own Hanna-Barbera Productions, which dropped some amazing cartoons like The Flintstones, Scooby-Doo, The Jetsons, and Yogi Bear. However, for some weird reason, MGM thought of reviving the cartoon with director Gene Deitch and his Czech team, who created an additional 13 shorts from 1961 to 62 on a shoestring budget. Though these reels were a commercial success, they couldn't win over the critics' hearts. Why did Jerry get a bow tie? Even as owners of a production studio with multiple successful animated shows, Hanna and Barbera could never really forget their first. In 1975, they reimagined Tom and Jerry for television and launched a series consisting of 48 episodes. These were 7 minutes each, and the Tom and Jerry show soon found a spot on ABC's Saturday morning schedule. However, Hanna and Barbera had to abide by the strict regulations in children's programs back then and had to cut down on the violence that was common in theatrical installments. Consequently, the famed enmity between the cat and the mouse was changed into an amicable relationship and even a bromance. It was this rendition that gave Jerry a red bow tie to visually mark this change and depict him as a more child-friendly character. Personally, we think he looks adorable with the bow tie, but we're well aware of the contrasting opinions on this. Let us know your thoughts in the comments section down below. Are you pro-bow or are you anti-bow? Why did Hanna-Barbera remove the character of Mammy Two Shoes? Mammy Two Shoes was a poor black woman who spoke in what appeared to be a stereotypical black accent and was given no role beyond that of a maid. She became the focal point of various gags created by Joseph Barbera, who claimed that Mammy's portrayal was not a reflection of his racial opinions, but it was merely a common societal trope in cartoons at that time. However, trouble soon brewed in White Paradise when the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People started protesting against prejudiced racial depictions of African Americans in Hollywood. The NAACP started a campaign against the use of the black housemaid role. Lillian Randolph even walked away from voicing Mammy Two Shoes. Hanna and Barbera had no other choice but to cut the character from the show. In fact, an episode titled A Mouse in the House, which showed Mammy getting spanked over and over again by Tom and Butch Cat, has been removed from circulation. Mammy Two Shoes was relaunched in the 1960s by Chuck Jones and his MGM team, where she became a white maid with an Irish accent, voiced by June Foray. There was even a disclaimer over the wrongful and offensive depiction of people of color in the DVD set named Tom and Jerry Golden Collection Volume 1. Finally, from 2020, all the shorts, including Mammy Two Shoes, no longer appeared on Cartoon Network or Boomerang and have been deleted from the latter's app as well. Did you know that Tom and Jerry was a part of live-action musicals? Though the film was released some 8 decades ago, we can never forget the live-action musical Anchors Away from 1945, directed by George Sidney. It paired dancing star Gene Kelly with various celebrities, but none were quite as remarkable as Tom and Jerry. Yep, you heard that right. In the number, the Worry song, Kelly performed with Jerry, and trust us, it was peak filmmaking, given the era. In this song, Jerry is a royal with a red crown on his head, while Tom appears only briefly as his butler. Jerry was brought to life by Sarah Berner's voice, and the sequence was carefully supervised by Hanna and Barbera. Some sources mention that the producers actually wanted Mickey Mouse to play the part, but after Walt Disney turned down the offer, our favorite rodent grabbed the opportunity and delivered quite the performance. Don't get us wrong, we love Mickey, but when it comes to Jerry, our bias is real. Whoops. Years later, in 1953, the anthropomorphic couple appeared again in Dangerous When Wet, swimming in sync with Esther Williams. Finally, in 2021, Tom and Jerry got a hybrid live-action animated movie of their own. Tom initially walked on all 4 legs. It's no news that the animation and appearances of both Tom and Jerry have evolved over the years. Tom was at the center of this modification and slowly lost his thick fur, distinct eyebrows, and wrinkles to make him look more polished, but that's not all. In the earliest shorts released before 1944, Tom could be seen walking on all 4 legs, but soon he became bipedal primarily to simplify animation and refine Tom's anthropomorphic behavior over his original feral traits. Jerry, on the other hand, remained mostly the same, except for a few small changes in his weight and eyelashes just to make him a little cuter. Basically, Hanna and Barbera made sure to make Tom and Jerry age gracefully by introducing these minute alterations. Tom and Jerry wasn't a totally non-verbal cartoon. We mostly see the two getting on each other's nerves, and tails to be precise. They don't really appear to exchange many words. All the emotions and ruckus have been brilliantly portrayed through the appropriate music and jaw-dropping expressions, the creation of which we believe probably gave the designers some sleepless nights. However, this wasn't always the case. In the old theatrical releases, like Solid Serenade from 1946, they spoke at length and Tom even sang. During that phase, Tom would even break the fourth wall and utter his catchphrase, "Don't you believe it," to the camera after being surprisingly defeated by Jerry. By the way, if you're curious about what Tom sang, he chose Louis Jordan's "Is You or Is You Ain't My Baby." That cat definitely has good musical taste. NASA named their satellites after Tom and Jerry. In early 2002, NASA, along with the German Aerospace Center, launched a joint mission known as the Gravity Recovery and Climate Experiment, where they released twin satellites to measure the deviations in Earth's gravity field. The two satellites would detect the changes by continuously growing closer and pulling apart from each other. They would keep traveling around the Earth until the end of the experiment in October 2017, with only a distance of 120 miles between them. Owing to the constant chasing of each other, which seemed like two bickering friends or siblings, NASA named them Tom and Jerry. And frankly, that's so much better than those boring scientific names. Somebody please let Tom and Jerry know that they made it to outer friggin' space. The story behind Tom and Jerry's memorable score. The credit for the famous music in Tom and Jerry goes to composer Scott Bradley, but Bradley was no ordinary musician. He used several complex techniques to achieve perfection, and the fact that the tunes of the cartoon are still fresh in our minds is proof that he did an amazing job. For Tom and Jerry, Bradley employed Arnold Schoenberg's 12-tone method, but guess what? The musicians had an inexplicably hard time using all 12 chromatic pitches equally without emphasizing any single one. Bradley would often use multiple genres like jazz, pop, and classical for Tom and Jerry shorts, apart from imposing his original tunes. Soon, another genius, Tex Avery, who was an animated film director, indirectly worked his magic on Tom and Jerry's sound effects. Avery's style involved fast chase sequences, violent slapstick, and over-the-top emotions. Thus, when Tom and Jerry needed to adopt a more energetic and aggressive melody, they drew inspiration from none other than Tex Avery. We're not exactly music connoisseurs, but we owe each and every one on that team for coming up with such timeless masterpieces. Be it Tom's plunking tiptoes or Jerry's energetic escapes, all the notes have been carved permanently into our hearts. Did you know Tom and Jerry appeared as comic strips? Between 1950 and 1952, the cat and mouse made their way into the world of print and appeared in comic strips. Though Fred Quimby is officially credited for Tom and Jerry's jump from the screen, experts think otherwise. They widely believe that the comic strips were created by a ghostwriter, most probably Gene Hazelton or Ernie Stanzoni and Dan Gormley. Unfortunately, it soon disappeared from papers, but it was revived after a while from 1989 to 94 when the editor's press service distributed them in the South American market. During this time, the strips were produced by Kelly Jarvis, except for one, which was done by Rich Mauricio and Paul Kupperberg in 1990 to 91. Honestly, we're excited to scour the internet to try to find this lost media. Did you know that Tom and Jerry was a revolution in the cat and mouse genre? If you loved Pixie and Dixie and Mr. Jinx or Herman and Catnip, you should thank Tom and Jerry. Because without them, those shows wouldn't have made it as far as they did. Sure, there were some cat and mouse gags in cartoons before, but until Tom and Jerry walked onto the set, none could really set the yardstick for the theme, which immediately won viewers' hearts. Tom and Jerry can thus be credited as groundbreakers in the genre, and in fact, they're the stars of one of the longest-running animated franchises of all time and have transcended beyond the visual buffoonery to a massive world of merchandise, books, and video games. I've even got a pretty cool Tom and Jerry t-shirt hanging in my closet. Ever since, many other shows have followed their formula with some twists, but no matter how amusing the new cat and mouse shows are, they will always carry a little bit of Tom and Jerry magic in them. And that, my friends, is how you make an everlasting legacy. Credit where it's due. Why were some Tom and Jerry episodes banned around the world? We never would have imagined in our wildest dreams that controversy would creep into a supposedly innocent children's show. But unfortunately, Tom and Jerry got embroiled in several disputes, not just over racial humor, but for a lot of other political reasons. For starters, in the UK, the British version of the Boomerang channel decided to edit episodes where the characters were smoking. This was done pretty seriously, given that the UK media regulator, Ofcom, began an investigation into airing such episodes. They also followed in America's footsteps over censoring racist antics, which was a little haphazard since not all scenes featuring such gags were removed. In 2013, Brazil took a drastic step when its Cartoon Network snipped out various Tom and Jerry shorts, citing political incorrectness. However, in an official statement, the number of censored shorts is only 2, Heavenly Puss and the Two Mouseketeers. In other countries in Asia, the Middle East, and North Africa, scenes with sexual jokes, nude buttocks, violence, and romantic dialogue have been heavily edited. Though this content was considered too harmful and inappropriate to be in a kids' show, many countries continued to air it even after it raised eyebrows. Tom and Jerry won more Oscars than Mickey Mouse. Imagine a gray cat and a tiny brown mouse making a grand entry on the red carpet dressed in their best suits. That's exactly what happened when Tom and Jerry got 13 nominations at the Oscars in the Best Animated Short Film category between 1943 and 53 and managed to bring home 7 of those noms. Yankee Doodle Cat of 1943 was the first animated clip that got Hanna and Barbera a taste for the Oscars. The other shorts to bag those golden statues were Mouse Trouble, Quiet Please, The Cat Concerto, The Little Orphan, The Two Mouseketeers, and Johann Mouse. It's extremely difficult to choose a favorite Tom and Jerry short, but personally, Mouse Trouble and The Little Orphan have our hearts. But wait, there's more. Turns out, Disney's most famous mouse, with his big round black ears, couldn't impress the judges as much as Tom and Jerry. Over the years, Mickey Mouse has been nominated for a dozen Oscars, but only bagged one in 1941 for a short titled Lend a Paw, which showed Pluto saving a little kitten and then fighting for Mickey's attention. However, Walt Disney did get an honorary Oscar for creating Mickey Mouse in 1932. We're not here to tell you that Tom and Jerry are better than Mickey Mouse, we're just telling you the stats. Tom and Jerry was a savior to BBC. From April 1967 to February 2001, in the UK, Tom and Jerry usually ran on BBC. It had regular slots, primarily after the evening news segment where 2 shorts were played. Occasionally, it even appeared on mornings in the kids section of the network, CBBC. However, facing disruptions in the broadcast schedule was a pretty common concern, and whenever such a thing happened, BBC just blindly closed their eyes and played Tom and Jerry as filler. They were confident that the cartoon would at least retain those viewers who might have just been channel hopping, and man, were they correct. This strategy proved to be helpful, particularly in 1993, when the BBC light entertainment series hosted by Noel Edmonds, Noel's House Party, had to be cancelled over an IRA bomb scare at the BBC Television Centre. The executives aired Tom and Jerry instead, and the two saved the day in a jiffy. Interestingly enough, the Glorious Network didn't care to edit any of the violence or even the parts about Mammy Two-Shoes. Did you know about the Tom and Jerry comic books? Having bought the rights from Roach, MGM produced a series of live-action shorts till 1944 known as Our Gang or The Little Rascals. During that time, around 1942, Dell Comics also started publishing Tom and Jerry comics as one of the features in their Our Gang comics. Now, once MGM stopped releasing the short films of the same name, Dell saw a golden opportunity and officially renamed the comic as Tom and Jerry Comics in 1949. Dell printed 212 issues under this title until it was taken over by Western Publishing. In this new home, the Tom and Jerry comics ran until issue 344 till 1984. It then continued to appear in multiple other comic books for the rest of the 20th century and became extremely popular in the UK, Norway, Germany, Sweden, the Netherlands, and even Yugoslavia. Yugoslavia even began publishing a licensed version in 1983 where the characters were drawn by several local artists like Bojan Dukic, Dusan Reljic, and Zdravko Zupan. Yet another licensed European variety has been drawn since 1986 by the Spanish designer Oscar Martin. So if you thought comics were only ruled by flying capes and divine hammers, you'd be mistaken, my friend. A cat and a mouse duo has been making comic book history for decades, proving that harmless rivalry could stand proudly beside powerful metahumans. What is Tom and Jerry Nanairo? Well, we're still on the topic of comics. Let's take a look at this manga series from August 2021, which was a spin-off for the timeless cartoon. Known as Tom and Jerry 7 Colors in English, this Japanese comic was made by Chara Maki Art and got serialized in the shoujo magazine Nakayoshi. The story revolves around Tom, who works at a cafe with a team of multicolored Jerrys as his helpers, and trust us, it's one of the cuddliest things you'll ever lay eyes on. An animated counterpart to this manga, Tom and Jerry Goku, was also released. The episodes were 1 minute long, and 2 of them, namely Diner and Cheese Day, seemed to be clearly inspired by the manga. However, after publishing just 5 chapters, the manga was cancelled in December 2021 when a member of the Chara Maki Art creative team was found guilty of being a pedophile. Did you know this famous animated series was intended to be a Tom and Jerry spoof? It's impossible to forget about the never-ending chase between the super-fast Roadrunner and his extremely unlucky rival, Wile E. Coyote. Honestly, there were days where we were rooting for the Coyote more than the Roadrunner. That bird is just such a jerk. However, beyond Coyote's elaborate traps, which could never really outsmart the Roadrunner, we didn't care to think about any similarities between them and Tom and Jerry. I mean, why would we, right? One involved a cat and a little mouse, and the other was about a bird bird and a member of the dog family. However, creator Chuck Jones, who came up with the characters for Warner Bros. In 1948, has claimed that the Roadrunner show's endless, unsuccessful chase was actually intended to be a spoof of traditional adventure cartoons, particularly Tom and Jerry. Yup, our little rascals set the template for quite a few shows to follow. Indeed, Roadrunner and Coyote got famous in their own right, but it's difficult to not see through the influences if you're planning to hit play. What was Squeak the Mouse? Tom and Jerry became quite the hotbed for satires in various countries. In Italy, an adult black comedy, which would later evolve into a comic book, Squeak the Mouse, was conceived by artist Massimo Mattioli. This comic not only parodied Tom and Jerry, but it took them to extreme levels of gore and violence and didn't shy away from portraying horror and even sexual content. Between 1984 and 92, 2 issues were produced, one from the perspective of the cat and the other from the viewpoint of the mouse. In both parts, the titular character murders the other, and it features a zombie plotline. We're not even done yet. A section of the comics also revolves around pornographic depictions of orgies with several female animals. On the 18th of April, 2019, a 3rd issue was launched in the collection, titled Squeak the Mouse, the Trilogy. This one even brought in aliens and worm-like monsters amidst all the blasphemous sex scenes. Good God. We're really praying that little Jerry never learns about this. Did you know Tom and Jerry were in a Ford commercial? Sure, this cat and mouse went places, but who would have thought that they traveled the road to success in a Ford vehicle? In 2003, the British advertising agency Ogilvy & Mather made a 40-minute commercial for Ford UK to promote their then newly launched Ford Mondeo, and the company chose to integrate none other than Tom and Jerry. In said advertisement, Tom and Jerry break out of the television screen and wreak havoc in a living room before rushing outside. And there it was. A Ford Mondeo was waiting for Jerry to get into it through the exhaust pipe while on the run from Tom. While Jerry was relaxing on the steering wheel, with Tom unable to get inside and finally being chased away by a bulldog, Ford brilliantly sold the comfort and safety of their vehicle. The commercial was an instant hit and was directed by Jeff Stark based on Dale Winton's writing, and it mixed animation with live action. Tom and Jerry became a metaphor for serious political tension. Unless you've been living under a rock, you probably already know that Iran and the US's political relationship has been nothing short of a game of cat and mouse. Fraught with disagreements and failed negotiations, the two countries are constantly on each other's heels. It's nearly impossible to treat such grave geopolitical situations with humor, but somehow Tom and Jerry found a place in it. The supreme leader of Iran, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, stated in 2018 that Iran and the US's animosity was like the enmity between Tom and Jerry. He likened the US to Tom, who's mightier in strength and size compared to Jerry, whom Ayatollah compared Iran with. His comments weren't shown on national television but were published in English on his official website. The innocent brown mouse even got drawn into Palestinian propaganda when their chief, Yasser Arafat, claimed that Palestine is like Jerry, an underdog who always outwits Tom and persists despite all difficulties. Keeping aside the grim political dealings between these nations, we're just shocked how Tom and Jerry could crawl into the bureaucratic rooms and somehow get entangled in global controversies. We're not sure if we're happy or sad about this exposure of an otherwise innocent children's cartoon, but it's flabbergasting to say the least. We're pretty sure Hanna and Barbera wasn't looking for this kind of publicity for their babies. Tom and Jerry in Macy's Parade. The annual Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade is a huge deal in New York City, and it began in 1924. It was presented by the American-based department store chain Macy's and is tied with the Detroit Thanksgiving Parade as the second oldest Thanksgiving parade in the U.S. It took quite a few decades for Tom and Jerry to make their debut in this parade, but finally, in 1992, the two appeared as costumed characters to promote the then recently released Tom and Jerry movie. Then, in 2020, some 28 years later, Tom and Jerry got their very own float, and the pair exhibited their famous brand of comical mayhem. The float was named the Tom and Jerry's Tourist Trap and was brought to life by the designers of Macy's Parade Studio. The floats were extremely eye-catching, with animatronics and other effects like smoke to spoof life in New York by throwing poor Tom into a series of visual gags, like run-ins with steamrollers or a pretzel stand. Both Tom and Jerry could also inflate like parade balloons, but sadly, the Tom and Jerry's Tourist Trap float was retired the next year. If we were to accomplish just one thing with this video, we'd want it to be making enough noise on the internet for them to bring this float back. What do you say? Wanna help us out? Did you know about this Tom and Jerry spin-off? Just like Jerry's nephew Nibbles, who stole the show with his over-the-top cute diaper and his insatiable hunger, the father-son English bulldogs, Spike and Tike, also made us go, "Aw." They were quite the nemesis for Tom, but their affectionate bonding is something we couldn't get over. Spike would be the archetypal protective father, going to great lengths to take care of his little pup, who often invited trouble. Spike and Tike became recurring characters in Tom and Jerry's life, and owing to overwhelming fan love, the two managed to claim a spin-off series in their name. However, their own little world of adventures didn't last long. The Spike and Tike animated shorts were written by Homer Brightman and directed by Hanna and Barbera in 1957. Sadly, MGM stopped animation production around that same time, and only 2 shorts were released between March and July of that year, named Given Tike and Scat Cats. Spike was characterized by Billy Bletcher and then by Dawes Butler. Tike, on the other hand, didn't really speak, but it's believed his barks were done by Hanna himself. Having moved on from MGM, Hanna and Barbera reworked Spike and Tike into Augie Doggy and Daddy Doggy segments to feature in the Draw McGraw show. The infamous 103rd episode. It's almost unbelievable that the characters that gave us nothing but unadulterated joy and giggles over generations would meet with such a gruesome fate. In Blue Cat Blues, Tom and Jerry's escapades take on an unspeakably horrific turn, bringing about their apparent deaths. Many often mistake this to be the last episode owing to such a tragic sequence, but we already know which one was the last classic-era short. Coming to Blue Cat Blues, we see a depressed Tom who's hell-bent on taking his own life and is thus sitting on a rail track waiting for a train to end his misery. Jerry watches over Tom from a bridge and is hurt by his condition, but still convinces himself that it's better for Tom and he'll be happy for the first time ever since he met her. So who was this her? In the mouse's flashbacks, we can see that Tom and Jerry were once best friends, but soon Tom fell for a white female cat, Gal, and was enamored by her beauty. Yep, it's the same cat that we remember Tom gifting a ring to, who turns it down for being too small. Poor boy should have taken the hint because Gal turned out to be a gold digger who left Tom for a rich black cat named Butch. Jerry, being a loyal friend, tried to warn Tom, but the latter was blinded by love. He blew a hole through his finances to meet all of Gal's demands and win her affection, which all went in vain. Jerry is jolted out of his melancholy when he suddenly sees his own girlfriend, a white mouse called Toots, driving away with a gray mouse and a just married sign hanging on the car. Damn, this is getting gloomy for a kid's show, right? Dejected, Jerry too joins Tom on the railroad tracks when an oncoming train's whistle can be heard getting nearer and nearer, leaving audiences to wonder what happened to them. This episode, released on November 16, 1965, is considered to be one of the worst outings of Tom and Jerry by the Video Movie Guide of 1995. The episode is memorable for a couple of other reasons too, like it being the final short to have a Western Electric Sound System recording before its rebranding as the Westrex recording system. Moreover, Jerry's point of view was based on a 1943 old Tom and Jerry reel, The Lonesome Mouse. These little details might not make much of a difference, but somehow for fans, they prove that each short is acclaimed in its own right. Tom and Jerry's star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. To have a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame is rightfully considered a monumental achievement for any person in the entertainment industry. William Hanna and Joseph Barbera received this ultimate honor on the 21st of July, 1976, and now have a 5-pointed terrazzo and brass star on the sidewalk of Hollywood Boulevard for their iconic creation of Tom and Jerry. The makers knew it wouldn't have been possible without the naughty duo, and like any proud parent, Barbera said, to a kid born in Brooklyn who started working in a deli at the age of 8, to be standing on Hollywood Boulevard staring at a star with his name on it certainly seems like he's accomplished an impossible dream. Marvelous verdict. Okay, that's all for today, folks. Honestly, we have rarely had as much fun digging up facts as we did for this one. I mean, it's Tom and Jerry, dude. It shaped our entire childhood and seamlessly continues to do so even today. And that's exactly why we're still fascinated to learn more about this signature cat and mouse duo. We think about it, Tom and Jerry had so much more to offer than just slapstick comedy. I guess we were too young to discern it back then, but I hope today we could enlighten you on at least some of the hidden gems this show locked away carefully. Lastly, at the risk of losing our impartiality, we want to say that there's never been a show quite as great as Tom and Jerry. Let us know which of these facts was your favorite and feel free to add to the list. Also, if you enjoyed this content, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to us if you haven't already. Otherwise, thanks for watching, stay safe out there, and have a marvelous day.